One of our favorites, we like to say friend of the show, but Ann Liguori, who you hear on WFAN 660 up in New York, CBS Sports Radio contributor, and really one of the top interviewers in the world when it comes to golf and people. And Ann Liguori, happy Easter to you. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Oh, my pleasure. Good to be with you.
Well, how are you doing in all of this? It's kind of some strange times. I mean, yesterday you would have been at the Masters for your 22nd consecutive year covering one of the greatest events in sports, and of course, that's not happening yet.
I really missed it, Nate. I really, really did the whole week. I normally now spend 10 days there because you have the women's amateur championship and then you have the drive, chip and putt competition for the juniors. And so I go in, it seems like I go into Augusta earlier and earlier every year. And it's just such a special week. I mean, you just see so many people in the golf industry. They all gather under the big old oak tree by the clubhouse. It's a who's who of people in golf and really in sports. And then walking the course is just so beautiful and so tranquil and serene. And they keep it in such pristine conditions. And the azaleas and the magnolia trees. It's just such a special event. And I love being there. But as you know, if you're not there in person, millions all over the world watch the Masters. And I'm sure yesterday people missed that. Although, we had some good insight from Tiger yesterday with Jim Nance to watch. And then on Saturday, Phil Mickelson with Nance coming on, which was a great idea for CBS to do that. But it's a week that I always look forward to, and it'll be interesting now to go to Augusta National in November. I'm kind of looking forward to that as well.
I would imagine they will, keep that course in the best shape possible. I'm not sure we'll really realize if there's any big change other than the months, but I would guess they'll keep it, in prime, fashion for the November dates.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they normally close the course to members from May until early October. So the members will just be coming back and, we'll see some changes in November. It's normally about 10 degrees cooler in November. Obviously, sunset is earlier, about 5:30-ish, from what I read on the final day of when it's going to be in November. And so they're going to have to make some adjustments. They'll have to start much earlier. And, they might have to, start on holes 1 and 10, like they did last year, final Sunday, because of the weather forecast. And we'll see some changes, but and maybe the wind will change a little bit. I've read where in November you have a north wind, which will make guys playing into the wind on different holes than they do perhaps in April. So it'll be interesting. It will be a little cooler and maybe windier. They might have to deal with more elements weather-wise. So, but I hear it's beautiful in November. I had some people on my show on Sunday talking about what it's like in Augusta in November. Both do radio shows in Augusta. And one of them played in November and just said it's absolutely gorgeous. So even though there might be some change with the weather and the timing, with the sunset, et cetera, I think it would be really kind of fun to be there. And I'm quite surprised that they actually rescheduled for November. I figured they would just maybe just wait till next year. But you're going to have the Masters in November, and then 5 months later, another Masters. So that will be interesting.
So it will actually it will finish the major season and then start again in 2021. They'll be the first. That is wild. You'll have two Masters champions in a matter of 5-6 months.
Yeah, it's just very, very odd. But, there's been a different philosophy with the powers to be at Augusta National through the years. And I thought, well, maybe they would just wait till next year. But, they really wanted to get it in. And of course, the wording of this statement when they came out with saying that they would like to reschedule the Masters in November, they were still being very careful. And obviously, it really depends on where we are with this COVID-19 and with the global pandemic, to know for sure if it will, certainly be run in November, but they have every intention to do it if they can.
Yesterday I thought it was so special because obviously we'd all like to be watching the Masters in live fashion, but the reality is that maybe what we witnessed a year ago, the 2019 version, that back nine deserved its second showing on primetime television on Sunday because of how special it was to see the return of Tiger Woods. And I mean, that back nine, what great theater that was, and to have his insight with Jim Nance, as you said, great idea by CBS. It was the most riveting television I can remember in a while when it came to golf.
Yeah, I loved seeing it again because when you're in the thick of doing updates during the actual competition, you see as much as you can, but you're on the air a lot, so you're missing you're missing some of the details. So to watch it again without the pressure of the work was fun just to see it. And you knew what happened, but nonetheless, with Nance talking to Tiger, throughout the replay was interesting. And he got very sentimental when he was talking about what it meant to win, his fifth Masters 11 years after he had won his last major title, which was in 2008 at, the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. And he was just so elated that he could share it with his kids because his kids had never seen him. They weren't really old enough to see it in person and to appreciate their dad, the legendary Tiger Woods, winning a major title. So to him, that meant everything. And I think he got a little teary-eyed when he started talking about how much that meant to be able to hug his kids when he got off that 18th green after winning. And his mother was there and his girlfriend. And, it was a rare moment when his whole family was there to watch him win a major title, which is just incredible when you think about it. The guy's won 15 major titles already, but this one was the most special because, his kids got to see it.
Ann Liguori is our guest here on Jock 98.7. You can follow her on Twitter at Ann Liguori, and she has archived her show from Sunday, Talking Golf with Ann Liguori from WFAN 660, and that Inside the Masters. So you had an opportunity to talk with some local Augusta talk show hosts who gave you some insight, not only on the course, but just kind of how the feel will be in November. That's neat.
Yeah, these guys are buddies of mine. Austin Rhodes is the top-rated talk show host in Augusta, and John Patrick, he hosts a show called the Augusta Golf Show. And ironically, I stay with Austin Rhodes and his family every year. He's housed me for, almost all 21 years of the years I've covered the Masters. So, it was like having my buddies on, talking about missing Masters week. It was really fun to have these guys on because we all sit together, on Radio Row in the beautiful media building at Augusta National. And we're normally always together this week anyway. So I thought it would be fun to have them on the air, and it was just kind of fun to hear their Southern accents and to get their insight on what it looks like in November and what's going on at Augusta National in the fall.
So, and I have to ask you, we have to talk about number 12, Golden Bell. It's the shortest hole at Augusta National, but it is the most difficult, and it can play the longest, and it can play the most uncertain, as we found with 4 of the final 6 putting it in the water, and that changed everything on Sunday last year. The swirling winds, and then Rays Creek obviously coming into play. What makes it so difficult back there?
The par 3 12th, my favorite hole in all the world in golf. Well, look, the winds, as Tiger even said in the replay on Sunday, he said there's normally wind there, but a lot of times you can't feel it on the tee box. But he's played there so many times that he used the right club and was able to hit his tee shot over the bunker and land safely on the green when Molinari went into the water and in Rays Creek, and so did everybody else basically who was in contention. So he just knows what the elements are like. He knows, he just has that wisdom, having played it so much, having won it so many times. And I just think you have to really go with your gut. Now, look, at any given time, the wind could stop. I mean, obviously you can't control the elements, but it's just a very, very tough hole. And, I mean, I have so much admiration for these guys, seeing what they do. I've had the opportunity to play Augusta National 3 times. And, just, from my own perspective, and an amateur player, you go up there hitting one club, and just to keep the ball on the green is tough. The green is small. And, obviously they're lightning fast, and you just have to place the ball in the exact perfect location for it to hold the green. There's bunkers all over the place. And if it lands short anywhere, it normally rolls back down the slope into Race Creek. So it's a very challenging hole.
I thought one of the more fascinating moments, at least on television, was Koepka about to tee off on 17, and he hears the roar of Tiger's just remarkable shot on the par 3 16th, and he has to look over and steps away to make sure he sees where Tiger's ball is, knowing then what he has to accomplish on 17 and 18. And Koepka was one of those who put it in Rays Creek at 12, but he found 2 eagles to close out his round. I mean, he was right there. Koepka's going to win a green jacket here soon enough, but wasn't that fascinating to watch him have to look over knowing the roar that Tiger had just created behind him?
Yeah, absolutely. And Brooks Koepka, very aware. I actually picked Koepka to win last year. I mean, the guy was just playing, phenomenal golf. And I agree. I think he is very capable of winning a green jacket very soon. But it just shows you that it's like an amphitheater at Augusta National in many areas on the course. And you can just hear the roars, and it rattles you to the bone when you hear other players, get that kind of applause. And it just makes it that much more exciting. So, that tee shot on Tiger's shot on the par 3 16th, he almost aced the hole. But he did say yesterday in the rewind that he couldn't even tell how close the ball was to the cup on that 16th, because you can't see, he said, from where he was, from the tee box, you can't see the ball. And then when he walked up and heard the roars of the galleries, with how close he was to that hole, it even rattled him. It even kind of shook him. So I can imagine how it shook Brooks Koepka way over on the 17th tee box.
And kind of crazy that Koepka's tee shot on 16 was very similar, but it just stuck on that ridge. It did not filter down towards the hole, which so many do, and maybe it was because of the wet conditions that moment. But who knows? I mean, you're talking about a stroke here, a stroke there. I mean, Koepka only lost by 1. So the game of golf, it's just so fascinating, and each hole can play so different based on what's happening at that current exact moment. It can be different from one guy to the next and playing in the same pairing. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, as good as these guys are, you have to have luck on your side too. And, I just feel that, Tiger was kind of destined to do this last year, and, win it for his family and win it for his father, perhaps, who was looking down, from the heavens. And it was just a great story, and such a comeback when you think about what he went through in the previous 11 years, from, the injury after injury, and the personal scandal, and hitting rock bottom with a DUI. I mean, this guy, went through just one thing after another, and to have come back from that, first physically, was phenomenal. And then just to be able to play, because I can remember in September 2017 at the President's Cup at Liberty National, New Jersey, I was in the press conference when he literally said, "I don't know if I'll ever play golf again." And that was the first time Tiger ever admitted that publicly. So to go from that moment to winning the Masters in 2019, it was just the comeback story of all ages.
Isn't that something? Oh, my goodness. Just remarkable. And before I let you go, sad news in the golf world. Doug Sanders, who won 20 PGA titles on tour, you knew him well and had a chance to interview him several times.
Doug Sanders, the peacock of the fairways. Beyond interviewing him, he's just so colorful and just so, just had so many cool stories. But I had the opportunity to play with Doug Sanders several times. A dear friend of mine who lives in La Quinta, California, in the desert. I would be out there playing in different celebrity golf tournaments, and my buddy Sklar is his name, was very close to Doug and played a lot of golf with Doug. And Doug kept a place out in the desert in the winter. And so several times when I would be out in that area, buddy Doug and I would go out and play. And, he was just so nice and just so humble and such a gentleman. And I just, treasure those moments of being able to play golf with Doug Sanders, who won 20 PGA Tour titles. And, I preferred never to look at him like many people did. And, who talked about that one putt. He missed that 30-inch putt for the win on the 72nd hole at the British Open at St. Andrews back in 1970 and lost in a playoff to Jack Nicklaus. And, I didn't want for him to think that I defined him by that one putt, by, that huge loss. And, because so many other people, judged him by that. And, he was just a wonderful guy, great storyteller. And he had more pairs of shoes than I do, which was crazy. I mean, he was such a colorful dresser. And he always talked about his closet and how he had all his outfits, colorful outfits, organized in his closet, and 359 pairs of shoes, and just a colorful guy. And, golf really needs personalities like that. So he will be missed for sure.
Peacock of the fairways. I love that. That's a terrific nickname.
It definitely is.
And great stuff as always. You're so kind to come on and spend some time with us and reminisce. We love your stories, and congratulations on the show going on strong, and someday soon, hopefully back out reporting and giving updates regularly from the actual courses. But in the meantime, enjoying some of these replays.
Yeah, exactly. I hope we indeed have the PGA Championship, which is rescheduled for August. Hope we have the U.S. Open rescheduled in September, the Ryder Cup, and then, of course, the Masters in November. And it will be interesting to see when the PGA Tour actually does resume. So, and the LPGA. So, lots to do there. It looks like it's going to be a busy autumn. Let's hope so, Nate.
Could be. I don't know how the networks are going to fit everything in. It could be like playing, all sorts of Tetris to move the blocks into the squares where you need to have time showing sports, live sports. But I'm sure they'll get that done one way or another. And thank you, seriously. All the best, and stay healthy during these difficult times.
You too. My pleasure.
Thank you. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 next. Sports Report on JOCK 98.7.